BMAX Audio Adventure, BJJ365. This is Irish Keet. Brandon's not here today, but you will get to hear his lovely voice in a conversation we have from a few months ago between Brandon and David Avellan. If you want to check out more David's stuff, go to his website, KimuraTrap.com or davidavellan.com. That's KIMURATRAP.com or David, DAVID, Avellan, AVELLAN.com. Here it is.
What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. I am just doing my physical therapy exercises for my knee.
Yeah.
So that's why I told you I got in a little late. Got carried away doing what I could do.
No worries, man. How are you feeling? How's the knee coming along?
Oh, much better. I could show you what it looks like. Let's see. Turn this camera around. So that's the guy right there. Yeah, quite nicely. Compared to my other knee, pretty similar, just not as hairy anymore because they shaved it.
So that's probably good for you, man. You're a hairy dude.
Oh, no, it freaks me out because it looks totally different. And like I was noticing stuff in my leg that I didn't notice before. Like I'm like my calf muscle looks weird. I'm like, no, it's just because I'm used to it covered in fur. So
Did you have a full reconstruction?
yeah, it was a complete tear. So I did a patella tendon graft and they just put it back together. So today marks 4 weeks that I've had it done.
Man. I had a patella tendon. That's what eventually stuck. I've had 5 surgeries on my right knee, and the patella tendon is the one that it finally stuck. So good choice.
Nice. Yeah, I heard the same thing.
I
was
heard
at
that
a Whole
is
Foods.
good too.
Yes, well, from what I read, because you could do the cadaver, but I heard the cadaver rips, which pretty much everybody I talked to said their cadaver ripped at some point.
Mine did.
Yeah, there's the patellar, which is supposed to be what I know now is the best, but then there's also the hamstring, which I guess originally they were doing, but then it started to, like initially when they were doing hamstrings, they were ripping apart early. But now I guess they reworked the process and they're saying the hamstring works good. But I had spoken to Forrest Griffin about it. I just bumped into him the other day and he was saying that only problem with hamstring is that if you run a lot, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, well, luckily I don't run. I tell people I learned how to fight so I wouldn't have to run anymore.
Yeah, right on. I used to run a lot, so I haven't run in years because of the knees. When I was preparing for ADCC, I would run like 5-7 miles a day.
Man, I never had the discipline to do hard things until I got to jiu-jitsu. And I think I developed, I had like a little discipline, like I learned to play the guitar and I learned to be a musician and stuff like that. And I would, go through like some of my, meditation, stuff like that, daily kind of stuff. But I never had the discipline to really acquire a skill and do the hard work until I got into jiu-jitsu. So I never got into running, dude. It's hard. It breaks me mentally.
Yeah, well, I didn't get into any type of fitness whatsoever until I started wrestling. I was probably 14 when I started wrestling in high school. And I went from soft, pudgy, fat kid, introvert, to running like 3 to 5 miles a day just to start off the wrestling practice.
Whoa, man.
But yeah, so since then, like my coach wrestled in Lock Haven. So like he just graduated out of Lock Haven and started coaching high school. So he started coaching it the same way that they were training in college.
Yeah,
So
that's nice.
our practices were crazy. They
They
were
were
crazy
crazy,
tough.
but they weren't high school level instruction.
At least from the cardio level, it definitely wasn't. Like I remember the first day there was like 60 people on the mats. By like week 1, there was 14. It wasn't enough for a full squad.
So, guys, if you're just joining us, if you'll look down, I think it's going to be like right here on your screen. There's a little like paper airplane looking thing. That's the share button. Hit that and share this to your story if you don't care. I'm not gonna take up all your time, man. Look, dude, I'm nursing this AC joint right now, dude.
Ah,
Oh,
oh, is your left shoulder?
it's my right one, yeah.
Oh, okay. You're like me then. My right one's also fried up.
Yeah, I jacked it up. So I was gonna have like a come out of retirement match a couple of years ago for Fight to Win, and
Yeah.
I started training like an idiot. I went from training soft to like a dog. And of course, what happens when you do that? I know what happens when you do that, and I knew what was gonna happen. I don't know why I do it, but you know.
It can be helped.
But it always, what's the worst for it though? I don't feel it in jujitsu because like in jujitsu, I have good posture. Like I do well with my posture. I feel it when I'm driving or when I'm working at the computer. Like because
Do your
I can
shoulder?
feel my pec pulling on my clavicle right there, and so I have to like
Oh,
real consciously like put my head on the ceiling, roll my shoulders back, and I like when I'm driving, I just rest my arm like I'm in a sling. Just leave this hand driving with the wheel like this.
I don't know. I feel my shoulder for everything right now. This right one, but it's weird because I've never uh, injured it. Like on my left shoulder, I popped the AC joint, but my left shoulder's fine. It's my right one. I think oddly enough, it's just from doing too many kimuras. I'm not even kidding. I swear to
Let
God,
thine
because
action
like,
be thy curse.
yeah, because, man, like, especially now in the first week after the surgery, I need to use the crutches and I had to lean a lot on my arms. Bro, this thing was like snap, crackle, popping like nobody's business. It's like pop, 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 pop. Like, it was so bad I filmed it. And when I went to see my doctor to like do a checkup on the knee, I'm like, yo, listen to this. And he's like, yeah, that's not good. So, this guy, although I did an MRI, there was no tears or anything like that. So it's probably just like arthritis or tendonitis or whatnot. But I want to get stem cells on this guy. I think that's going to be the best ticket.
Have you done stem cell before?
I haven't, but I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of good results from stem cells, particularly from shoulders.
Really?
It seems that because I guess one of the things that stem cells does really well is lowers inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the problem with the shoulder, you have impingement or because it's a very small joint space. So if you get a little bit of arthritis or a little bit of tendonitis, you swell, so everything's rubbing into each other, and that's where all the clicking's coming from.
Yeah.
So one of the benefits to stem cells, a lot of people think it's just to cure stuff, but it also just drops swelling massively. So
Which allows it
I
to
know,
heal a little bit.
yeah. So
Yeah, I want
that's
to do.
something
It's
that,
just so expensive. I'm a jujitsu coach, man. How am I supposed to afford stem cells?
yeah, I know. I mean, in the States here, they run anywhere from three to like $8,000 a shot, I think. If you go like on the high end, like the guys in Panama, whatnot, Dr. Riordan, it's like 10 grand a shot. So it can get pretty pricey.
Dude, I ain't got that Kimura trap money yet. I'm working on it.
Uh, well, for me, the whole thing is like, man, like it's a pill, a big pill to swallow, but it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Right, dude. That's what I'm worried about. Like, it'll be like an effect that is the same as placebo or something. But I don't
Right.
want that.
Yeah,
I don't want placebo. I can make
yeah, correct.
placebo now. I can just convince myself. But I need something like that works, that fixes it.
Yeah,
Eric
most
Abcare
definitely.
says definitely for the shoulder, major stabilization for the glenohumeral joint is for muscles. Take care of those things. Appreciate that, Eric.
Yeah.
And then
That's
S.
it.
Foster says I can only share with your permission on my feed. Oh, you have my permission. I don't know how to change that in the settings. Sorry, man.
Uh,
So you last time I talked to you, you're not you don't own a school or anything now. You're just training, right? Right now, obviously, you're not training.
yeah, well, I still have my school in Miami, Florida,
Okay.
right? Freestyle Fan Academy. My brother is the one running the show. I'm doing all the online stuff, managing the CRM and the marketing and whatnot, but he's obviously not teaching there day to day.
Yeah.
But over here, right now, I'm in Las Vegas. Been here for now over a year, and I just train out of the different gyms here. I'm close to Robert Drysdale, so I work with him a lot, but I also see Casey and 10th Planet and Henderson. So I get around quite a bit, but yeah, I don't have as far as me teaching really a physical presence, although like I said, I pass by a few places, but not my own business. I just do it now just for fun. I
Awesome.
gotta keep myself sane. But yeah, everything I'm doing now is pretty much online.
That's incredible.
You know?
We live in such an interesting time, right?
Yeah, like when I don't know how long you've been in the game, Brandon, but when I got started, like it was like 97, I think. 96 or 97. 96, I think. Yeah. And there was nothing online. Internet didn't really
Right. It was barely a thing.
it, it was barely I had it, but it was like silly. Like, you had like what was it? Prodigy and
Yeah, dude, we had
old
this thing
school
called a
stuff.
web TV, which was like a keyboard that plugged up to your TV, and you would just send email with it. That's all that we had at our house at that time.
I remember like the bit rates for the millisecond, like you're talking about like a fraction of a fraction of what we have now. But
Yeah.
yeah, nobody was passing videos or techniques.
No, and in fact, everybody
So
was keeping them all secret, right?
yes,
That really,
yeah.
that's just been changing in the last couple of years, I think, that people are really starting to put their, like, really open up and show their secrets, you know?
Yeah, I think now it's just you can't hide it anymore
And I think now
because I
mostly
mean,
people understand that there aren't really any secrets. Like nobody does anything that different. There's a couple of little tricks, couple of little paths, but what works, and that's the stuff that works for everybody, right? I do think there are, there's some things that some guys know that other guys don't know, but not much, man. I don't think, at least. What do you think?
well, yeah, I mean, there's certain things that people have, but like I think now what happens is you can't hide anymore. There's so much exposure because everybody's got a camera. Like if you just think like nowadays, like anytime news happens, there's like 10 videos of it because everybody's got a camera walking around with them on their phone. And I think also just there's more financial incentive to make DVD sets and online courses.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you just even if you had the knowledge, most people just didn't know how to get it out and how to make money from it. There wasn't really a market yet.
Yeah.
But nowadays, if you're sitting on a gold mine of techniques, you'd be silly not to try to, get it out to the masses and, collect from it as well.
Yeah. Really, in a lot of
I
ways.
for a bit, like when I came out with the Kimura trap system, it was like in 2007.
Yeah.
And I fully fleshed it out around 2008, 2009. I had like made everything, the mind map and all that. But then I was thinking, you know what? I don't want to share this until I I win ADCC because then I'm gonna give up my golden goose.
Yeah.
So like I did ADCC in 2009, took the bronze, and then in 2011 I went again. I'm like, you know what? I'm being stupid. I'm wasting time. I might as well just get it out there.
Let it loose. What
Let
year
it loose.
was 2011 the Paul Harris match?
Yes.
Ugh. That whole situation still, if I think about it, it just makes my stomach turn, man. I'm sure you have fond memories of that situation.
There was a lot of things going into that match. So like first, like from 2009 to 2011, I didn't do any competitions. So I went from one ADCC to the next ADCC.
Interesting.
So I had ring rust, and one of the things that not so much ring rust, like I was out of shape or whatnot. I wasn't out of shape. I was in good shape. The problem I had was my mindset wasn't like in kill mode.
That's one of the questions I had written down to talk to you about. So please just keep going. Mindset.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. So for me, when I compete, I want to be stone cold killer machine. I don't want to have any emotions going through. I want to just be able to, go 100%. Don't really care what happens to the other guy, to be honest, until the referee intervenes.
Right.
Being very aggressive. But what had happened at that time when I was training in the gym, I was controlling most of the people I was working with. So for me, it's hard to go kill mode on people when I'm way better than them.
Yeah, when you're the dominant player, right?
Because then it's like I'm just, beating a dead horse.
Well, you're a bully at that point too.
Right. So I was like playing more in my training. You know, and you train how you fight. So when I did my first match at ACC, I fought is it Cameron Haynes, I believe. He was from Australia.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Um, and I got the name wrong, I'm pretty sure. I think it's Cameron. But when I grappled him, like I was kind of playing. I wasn't going hard, you know what I mean? And I still won the match. I got a heel hook at the end. Um, but then when I went to fight Paul Harris, I was fighting with the same mindset. And you do not want to fight Paul Harris playing.
No.
You want to fight him. It's like it's a survival situation. It is because right away he's doing the head clubs, wow, like crazy hard, you know, like
Crazy.
yeah. And man, people don't realize it, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like a fight in there. So when I got in, he got the heel hook. He started rolling out of bounds, and when I was going out of bounds, I was totally fine because when the ref called it, my knee was on the mat, or I guess on the hardwood floor.
Yeah.
And to me, your knee's down,
You're
there's
out.
no heel hook.
You're out.
Yeah. But then when they said they stopped it, I kept rolling, so I landed on my butt. And then Paul Harris had the heel hook, and he wasn't cranking. And then, boom, he just ripped it, like after the stop. And then my knee went pop, pop. And then I tapped him, right? So then he celebrates because he thinks he won or something. And then I'm looking at the referee. I'm like, man, you stopped the match. And now I got yoked. And then the referee didn't know what to do. And I stood up. And then Paul Harris, I guess he was trying to give me like a celebratory like pat on the back. But it became another head karate chop to the back of my neck, you know? So then I shoved him. I'm like, yo, what the hell? You popped my knee and now you're going to try to knock me out? Like, and of course, everybody's looking at me like I'm a jerk. You know, they start booing.
No, nobody.
Yeah.
No, that's not the way it looked on the outside. On the outside, it looked like he was a crazy person.
Oh, but no, in the crowd,
Really?
the English crowd was booing me. You know what I mean? Because they can't really see the club. You know what I mean?
Gotcha, yeah.
So they're looking at me like I was a bad sportsman. And then I'm like, well, they restarted it, but they restarted it from the worst possible scenario. Not really when
Literally, maybe the worst possible scenario that can be developed in grappling at that moment in time, at least. Like maybe now you could say it's scarier to have Gordon on your leg, but I don't know if it's much scarier, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd rather have Gordon, but they restarted. So I'm like, and he's already like cranking it a little bit, and you know, this is on my pop knee already. And I'm like, oh God. So when it starts, I roll and I get out of the heel hook, but I'm going right into the knee bar. You know what I mean? So I roll right into the knee bar, and he rips that, and then boom, it just like a t-shirt ripping in half. You know what I mean?
What was the result of that? Like, what happened to your knee during that exchange?
Well, hyperextension, of course.
Yeah.
So when I got the MRI, because of wonderful health insurance and whatnot, it took about like a month before I could get in to see the doctor. And by the time they took the MRI, they're like, well, you know, you got little tears everywhere, but no complete tears. So like I still had an ACL, I had a small meniscus tear, small PCL tear, but nothing significant. So, and by the time I was already training again, so he's like, oh, well, you don't need to do anything.
Huh.
I'm like, okay, I got lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
No real consequences from it.
no real consequences from it. But I think this is the same knee I just got operated on, though. So I think it just
Maybe so.
because I know, like, I still had an ACL at that point. But then 2 years later, when I did the ADCC and not ADCC. Oh, I did ADCC, but then I went to IBJJF Noogie Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
In my first match, I was in a 50-50. The guy was trying to turn me belly down. I tried to turn away from it, and then my knee went. And at that point, my knee's never been the same. So I think at that point is when I tore my ACL.
Oh, that's real crazy. Like the one place where you can't get heel hooked, and that's where you got the heel hook injury from.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I thought it's funny. Oh, everybody's sort of worried about reaping. I've never been hurt from reaping. I've been hurt from a 50-50.
You know, the only time I've ever seen anybody hurt, I've seen two full ACL tears from reaping, but they were, to me, it's the IBJJF rule set that allows reaping to be dangerous. because when you resist the sweep, right?
Yeah.
Or you're standing. That's what both times I've seen it's been a standing opponent underneath or over the top of the leg locker, and he goes to reap, and the guy won't go down. He just firm. I'm not letting you sweep me. ACL goes. But I've never seen it happen on the ground. I've never even seen anybody get really tweaked hard, even just at all, really, on a reap in training.
No, I mean, I've been doing this now for like 23 years. Brandon, I've been teaching pretty much the whole time. Never had a student reap and get injured.
Yeah.
And we do heel hooks from day one. Like at my school, we do MMA, you know what I mean? So like everybody's learning leg locks and whatnot. Never had that happen. You know, so like to me, it's a total, and I'm sure there's a situation that can happen. The thing I consider dangerous is just leg scissors.
Yeah,
I've seen
that's one of the only techniques we have against the rules here at my gym.
Yeah, same here. I've had two guys who are very good leg lockers, but like shin to half. Yeah, that's it. We're done with that one.
So we don't allow the scissor leg takedown, even with the hand on the mat. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And we don't allow jumping guard. Not pulling guard. Pulling guard's fine, but you can't jump guard.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's terrible, especially when the guy's backing up and they jump into him, and now he's falling with his legs straight out and hips on top of the knees. Yeah, that always scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, we don't allow that one. We don't allow the white belts to do twisting heel hook, twisting leg locks in sparring, but we teach them from day one. So we prepare them for it, and then we enter tournaments where they do them. You know, but it's other white belts, so it's all right. They're probably more prepared than the other white belts, even if the other guys are training with them.
Yeah. No, being exposed to is important for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about. I want to hear a little bit more about your idea on mindset. So, the mindset of a competitor versus the mindset of just a dude who enjoys training. You know, maybe you're serious about training. Maybe you're not even consider yourself a hobbyist. Like you're 5 days a week, 6 days a week, but you just enjoy training. What to you is the big, like, how do you train as a hobbyist versus how do you train as a competitor, I guess?
Right. Yeah. So very different mindsets. And real quick, I'll give you a difference of what I consider different types of people. You have your normal person. You have what I would consider a sportsman. An athlete, and then a warrior.
Okay.
That's to me like the ascendancy. Your regular person, they get tired, they stop doing what they're doing. Right? Like they quit very quickly.
Yeah, that's what Casey Halstead would call a normie.
In the army. Exactly. Whereas when you have someone who's an athlete, this is somebody that when they get tired, they'll push beyond the limits of fatigue. Right? So like fatigue is not an issue, right? They'll keep going and they'll gas out of their mind. But a warrior is a level above that. A warrior is somebody who goes beyond physical injury.
Okay.
Right? Like an athlete, if they start getting hurt, they stop, right? A warrior will let their arm get broken and keep going. And somebody who's a warrior, you have to kill them before they're out of the match.
Yes.
So you have your guys like Nick Diaz and all the other guys are just freaking, or for example, this past weekend, what's his name? Dan Hooker.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you have to kill that guy before he'll stop.
Yeah,
you know?
Barboza almost did kill him.
Yeah, he's like a T-1000 there. Like, I don't know how he stood up from all the blows. It's ridiculous.
Me either, man.
But so those are the different, as far as like competition-wise, how people handle stress. So there's different levels. But now as far as like training purposes, right? Somebody who's just your hobbyist, we might consider like, you know, in between athlete or sportsman or whatnot, where he just wants to have a good time. So if you're going to be the hobbyist, your goal is learning, right? You're trying to learn as much as you can, and you want to be as safe as you can as well. Because we are in a very dangerous sport. I mean, the goal is to break someone's limb. So safety has to be, you know, at the forefront. So I think somebody who's a hobbyist is trying to learn as much as possible while staying safe. And their goal is to try to continue to train continuously. If they get into dangerous situations, they should definitely tap out, you know, quickly. I know a lot of people who train have regular 9-to-5 jobs and whatnot. They can't afford to have black eyes and, limping shoulders and knees when they go to work. So I think for them, they have to be much safer because they
Yeah.
can't afford those risks. So they don't need to test their toughness as much, right? Like to me, what separates like your normie, if you will, to like your athlete or your warrior is toughness. How much are you willing to endure mentally? But now, I've spoken about this with people before, but there's a fine line between being tough and being stupid.
Yes.
Because if you get me in an armbar band, I'm gutting it out like, and then I escape in the last second. Oh man, Dave's tough. And that's looked at as good. If we get in that same armbar and then I'm gutting it out and then you pop my arm, Dave's stupid, right? Right? And really, it's a 50-50, and when you get in a tough spot, your chance of escape versus getting injured, it can be pretty close,
Yeah.
So I think your average guy you don't want to really test toughness too much. And especially if you're just a normal person, So as far as like the type of situations you put yourself in as a normal guy, you probably don't want to flex toughness too much, Whereas if you're someone who's a competitor, you do have to test that toughness from time to time. Because if you're always tapping early, when you get into competition, you're also going to tap early.
Yep.
And you're not going to give yourself the chance to escape.
Well,
and
you don't give yourself the opportunity to learn the full art either. Like you need to know, like I tell guys, you need to know where the edge of the cliff is. And the only way to know is to fall off.
Yeah.
That's the only way to truly know. Like how much of my foot can I hang off before my balance changes and I plummet to my death? So what about you at this point in your career? Where do you fall on this spectrum? Like, are we going to see you competing again, or are you calling it? You're just interested in sharing your knowledge?
Yeah, I think I hung my belt, so to speak, probably like in 2013 after our last tournament. The other thing with mindset there was motivation, right?
Yes.
Like I had been when I learned about grappling because I started in MMA and then MMA became illegal in Florida around 2001, so we weren't allowed to compete anymore. So I started grappling, and when I learned about ADCC and grappling, I'm like, I want to fight in Abu Dhabi. That was my goal. I wanted to be a world champion. So I remember in 2003, I didn't get the invite or anything like that. 2005, I got the invite, and I had been in every ADCC since. It was 2005, 7, 9, 11, and 13. But by the last one, my motivation really wasn't there anymore. Like I lost the fire, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I was going through all the motions, I was training, I was doing all that, but it was more because I was attached to an old goal that I didn't fulfill, right? The closest I got that bronze medal. I beat a couple world champions along the way, but I didn't get it myself. But I just didn't want it anymore. But I was forcing myself to do it just because I had set this goal, back like 10 years ago. But after that competition, I realized, you know what? I'm not bringing the heat that I need to bring, and it's not doing me a service. You know what I mean? So at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna focus on other things. I'm gonna focus on teaching and on other business matters and whatnot. So it doesn't help that my knees are shot and so is my my right shoulder.
Yeah.
But I've been offered a bunch of super fights and stuff like that throughout the years, and I'm like, nah. I mean, you have to offer me some silly money if I'm gonna get excited to do it.
You got to offer me enough money to get stem cell shots afterwards.
That's not a bad idea, maybe. But even then, I got a lot of offers, and I'm like, nah, it's just not enough.
Yeah, man.
But I wouldn't be lying to you if I'm looking at the guys now. I'm like, fuck. Now they're getting some real money. Like, where was this like 15 years ago when I was in my prime? Yeah, because good for them, man. Like, I'm happy to see that the community is growing, and these guys like Gordon Ryan now are making a living just off grappling. That's awesome. Like that's the dream for everybody now.
Well, in a lot of ways, you were one of the guys who kind of set the stage for that with the Kimura trap stuff. Like we were talking about people sharing their secrets and putting their information online. There wasn't a lot of material like that Kimura trap when you put that out. You know, there were DVD sets and stuff, but there wasn't anything that was like a full mind map. Eddie, his books were like that. You know, that was the real brilliance to me, and what Eddie Bravo was doing was the mind map at the front. If A, then B. If B, then, you know, and the mastering the rubber guard and the mastering the twister. And then you did that with your Kimura trap stuff too, you know, or really similar to that, right? And,
yeah, you know, like because I come from an engineering background. You know, I was an electrical engineer, so I think in charts and visually. So when I was exploring the concept myself, because the origin of the Kimura trap system was after ADCC 2007, right? Like I had fought 4 matches, I beat Zanje, I lost to Drysdale in the absolute, you know, but in 4 matches I grappled for 70 minutes, right? And you remember the regulations are normally 10, but like what happened was in my first match I won in regulation, 10 minutes. Then my second match was against Tarsus. I lost in double overtime, 20 minutes. Then I fought Zanje in the absolute, fought him for 25 minutes. I won in triple overtime. Then I fought Drysdale and lost in overtime, 15 minutes.
Dude, that's insane.
It's insane, right? So I was looking back, I'm like, man, I'm not going to win an ECC like this because I'm putting way too much time in the mats. Like, even if I'm the better guy, I'm not going to have the energy. And I was looking at like, who's winning ACC, right? I'm like Marcelo Garcia, Roger Gracie, you know,
Kill.
Drysdale, yeah, they all finished. Like in Drysdale, I was the only guy he didn't finish.
Is that the year he tapped Marcelo?
Yes.
Crazy.
Like, so he tapped out Big Mac in his first match. Then he fought me to overtime. Then he tapped out Galvao. And then he tapped out Marcelo Garcia. And so I remember after.
That doesn't even make sense to me. When my little Alabama brain, like you tap Galvao and Marcelo back to back on the same day, like that makes my brain want to explode.
Yeah, I mean, he is a beast, and he still is. Like I get to train with him, it's like Jesus Christ. It's like rolling with a bag of wrenches. It's not fun. Yeah, he's just a crazy, strong, fast, and that's super technical. You know, like
big dude too.
Yeah, he's huge.
How big is Robert?
Oh, to me, he's a giant, but I think he's like 6'2"-ish. I think I don't know.
Yeah, that's a giant.
Height, but he's 230 or 240 pounds.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
He's a big dude. Like for me right now, I'm actually pretty light. I'm like 195 pounds right now. So
yeah, I'm sitting here fat at 172. Like I'm a big boy at 172.
Yeah, no. But yeah. So anyhow, so going back to that. So when I was in ACC, I fought the 70 minutes. I'm like, I'm putting too much time. What I need to do is work on my finishing game because I was known as a wrestler, right? Because I was like a wrestler with leg locks. That's what people had known me as because I had good takedowns, even though I'm only a high school wrestler that never even made states. But I was a wrestler.
In jiu-jitsu, that's basically a demigod, though.
Especially back then, you know. Like I remember when I rolled in the scene, like in 2002, I was taking everybody down. One guy had called me a black belt wrestler. I'm like, oh man, people know what a wrestler is. Like they're gonna freak out. But yeah, so I'm like, you know what? I gotta work on my submissions. And I was looking. I had a good leg lock game for the time back then, but like for me, it was harder to impose leg locks on somebody who's good on defense. You know, although I wasn't playing around with all the stuff people were now.
Yeah, it was a little different, right?
It was a little different. It was mostly like Ashigarami and, you know, some 50-50 stuff. Yeah, you know. So people weren't using the saddle as much or 411 or doing inversions. I mean, I don't really invert anyways. So I'm like, I need something that I can pull off from every position. So I made a little chart. I'm like, okay, these are all my submissions. What positions can I do them in, you know? So like some of the top runners were armbar. Armbar, you could doing a lot of places. But Kimura had beat it out, right? Because I'm like, I could do a Kimura from mount, side mount, top, bottom, guard, half guard, back mount.
Standing,
So like,
whatever.
yeah, standing, exactly. So I'm like, I literally, every combat position I can do a Kimura from. Doesn't matter what, So I'm like, you know what? When I was in wrestling, we would have game plans. And I would have plan A, plan B, plan C, and like, depending on the situation, like, your Hail Mary plan is the one that you can do from everywhere. But for me, like, I should base my game off this Hail Mary because it's useful everywhere. I'm like, I'm going to work on the Kimuras nonstop. And I had learned one sequence that really brought it out. I was at Bodog Fight, and I had met up with Rodrigo Dam.
Yeah.
Fought in the UFC a couple of times. This was back like in 2006. And I remember he was in the training room, and he was Kimura to armbar, Kimura to back, everybody. Like, he was just destroying people. I saw people storming off the mats furious. Like, they were just pissed, because they're like, fuck, like, this little guy's kicking my ass. I watched him, like, damn, this guy's on something, right? So I started playing with those transitions. I started expanding more to back to crucifix, Kimura to triangle, Kimura to whatever, and then playing with the grip more. And I became obsessed with doing the Kimura. And I knew I was onto something because after about like a month and a half at the gym, everybody was complaining that all I did was Kimuras. But they were still working. So to me, that's like when you could do something that everybody knows you're going to do and they still can't stop it, you've hit a gold mine, right? Yeah. So at that point, I started now writing down everything I was doing and all the connections, and the entry point that everybody knows the Kimura trap for is the head inside single leg, right? Like they go for the single, you hit that, you fall, but it's so much more than that now. Like literally the system is about 11 hours long at this point, of video. So you can base your whole game off of it. And like I said, it's probably why I have problems with this because I'm doing it to everybody. Like I'm grappling with a lot of bigger guys, so it's more stress on you, but it's become very powerful. But yeah, that's why I developed it because I realized I wasn't going to win by points in the long run. And then flash forward 2 years later when I went to ADCC in 2009, I got 3 out of 4 matches won by submission. And I won I beat Lovato, I beat Tarsus, and Tarsus was a big one because in 2007, when I was in double overtime, he had shot a single leg, I sprawled, and I had a Kimura locked up. And I knew the Kimura trap at the time, but I'd never done it in competition. Right? It was only something I had done in the training room. So when I locked it on, I was hesitant. Because I'm like, I don't want to fall back on this and then lose.
Give up the points,
The points, So I'm like, I bailed. I let go of it. And when I did, he took my back, got a choke, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up looking at the lights. And I was like, fuck, like he screwed up, right? Yeah. I should have stuck to my guns. So I made myself a promise after that whenever I lock on a Kimura, I'm never letting go of it.
Wow.
Now, when I rematch him in 2009, we end up in the same situation. He shoots a single leg, I sprawl, I get the Kimura. But this time I'm like, no, I'm not letting go of this for nothing. Sure enough, it got a little funky, but then I rolled him into the crucifix, and after a little bit, sunk in my one-arm choke, and I got the tap. And that to me was a redemption. And then also just a testament to the power of belief, right? I think, especially when it comes to submissions, what makes a guy a good submission guy is the amount of belief they have that the submission is going to work, right? I think
there's a lot of truth to that for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people give up on their submissions before their opponent does. So like they're submitting themselves, like they're giving up on their own submission before it has a chance to work, right? Because at the end of the day, the submission only works when your opponent gives in. If you're giving in first, there's no chance, right? So pretty much every submission you do has to be done with the intention that you're gonna rip the person's arm off or choke them or put them to sleep. Like there has to be, you have to believe that you're capable of doing that and will do that. It should be a surprise when it doesn't work.
I love
Like,
it. We call that
right.
braking pressure. Everything has to have braking pressure. It can't be, you can't go in soft on a thing. Your
Yeah,
mechanics have to be clean, and that really makes the training safer because your
for sure.
mechanics are so clean. Like a heel hook, for instance, my mechanics, not mine personally, I'm trying, but my mechanics would be so clean that when I get to the spot for the break, you're left with no choice but to tap out before I apply the full range of motion on the break. And that's what makes the technique safe is I don't have to gut through them and like I know they break. I know they break because I've been through the full motion of the break or whatever, you know.
Yeah, big time. So I think that's whenever I teach seminars, I always tell that story because I think it's important. It's just the power of belief
That's
is
amazing.
it's huge. And
I want to piggyback off of that. And I might screw this up, so I'm going to have to get you to tell it because I can't remember if it was you or if it was from your brother. But there's a
okay,
story that I heard on an interview with one of you guys several years ago. And I don't remember the source, so you're just going to have to tell it.
okay,
But
you got it.
it was one of you guys matched up against one of the Gracie brothers in one of their own tournaments. That was you.
Yes, sir.
And you kept throwing the same pass.
Yes, knee
Okay.
cuts.
Can you share that story with me? I've repeated that story and I've probably changed it 1,000 times because I only heard it the one time and it's been a long time ago. But that was a huge story for my mindset as a martial artist. It was incredibly
Okay,
informative to me. So I would love it if you'd share it with these folks.
for sure. So this was back in 2003. I remember that I did a Grappler's Quest to get into that tournament because it was it was an Ultimate Submission Showdown. It was run by Jorge and Gracie in Torrance, and it was a $5,000 prize for first place. At the time, that was a
That's a
huge
lot of money
prize.
back then.
Yeah, it was a huge prize. So I was like, I wanted to get in there. So there was a Grappler's Quest Pro Division. I remember I beat Jay Heron and Justin Garcia, Joe DiArce, and a bunch of them to get into the finals and win my spot into that tournament. And in that tournament, there was Hannah Gracie, Horion Gracie, Jeff Monson, myself, Peter Angerer, Travis Luter.
Whoa.
Uh, God, there was a Japanese gentleman. Man, I don't know. I would butcher the name. I better just not say it. And there was Lance Palmer, yeah, I think it's the name. So a lot of people from very different backgrounds, kind of going with the UFC original style, where style versus style. You know, you had Gracie Jiu-Jitsu guys, you had what they consider wrestlers like myself and Jeff Monson, you had a judo guy and the Japanese gentleman. There was some catch wrestlers, Lance, and a few others. So they were trying to see which grappling style is the best style.
Basically, they put
Uh,
together a tournament for their dudes to win, just like the UFC, right?
so they believed,
Yeah.
right? So they believed because when they matched up their opponents, I don't know if they said it was random or whatever, but it was me versus Henner in round one, and then Hiron was fighting Jeff Monson in round one.
Mhm.
So like, if I was the dad and I was going to set up my sons for victory, I would not put them up with me or especially with Jeff, you know?
Yeah. He's a terrifying
And-
man.
yeah, I'm big and very good at winning, you know? So I don't know if they underestimated the rules. Now they did a few things funky with the rules that I figured they thought would help them. One, no takedown points, right? Takedowns don't count for anything. 0 points.
Makes no sense.
Um, the other stuff was standard jiu-jitsu points for the most part. Sweep was 2 points. Guard pass 3 points. There's no knee on belly. Mount 4 points. Back mount with hooks 4 points. No time limit. First to 12 points or submission wins.
All right.
Now there's one caveat, which is if you were holding a guard of any form for 3 minutes and the person couldn't pass, the person in guard, the holding guard gets a point and they reverse position. Yes, right?
Reverse position, like he would get the guard or he would go to mount.
You would get the guard now, right?
Okay.
So they would switch guards, in other words, right?
That's madness. That's total insanity, but continue.
Yes, it is, right? So I figured they felt, oh, well, if we took the takedown points away and we did this little no guard passing rule, the wrestlers would have no chance, right?
It's a
Because
strong thought.
yeah, I figured because it was their tournament, their rules, everything. So when we went there, I was there with my brother as my coach, and it was pretty interesting because it was the first major production of a grappling event I've seen. They had cranes and camera operators. I was on the stage, well lit. You had Ed O'Neill in the on the front row there. Al Bundy, for those who don't know who
Did
he
he have
is.
his hand in his pants while you were competing? I need to know.
Disappointingly not. That I could see.
That's shameful.
Yeah, it's shameful. They also had what's his name? He passed away, but the guy from the Green Mile, big dude.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He had the deepest voice I've ever heard before, because they're both Henner students. So I remember when I was grappling Henner, you just hear, "Come on, Henner, come on, Henner." It was like it echoed like through everywhere. It's like an elephant, you could just hear it from like miles out. And of course, Elio Gracie was there, which is pretty iconic. He was watching Grandsons.
Yeah.
So when I grappled him, Henner, right away I told myself, I'm going to game the system. I'm going to pull guard first because I want to get that first point. Because if it's going to go back and forth, I don't want to be the one on the losing side of that. So I pulled guard. I defended my guard, got the first point against Henner. One thing I didn't realize, Henner is extremely tall. He's like a basketball player.
Yeah. He's like 6'4", right?
Yeah, he's enormously tall. And for reference, I'm 5'9", so 5'10" on a good day, but
Oh, lost him for a second. Oh, no. We got to get it back. All right. Well, in the meantime, while we wait for his connection to pick back up, if you guys... Oh, there it goes. Hey, we kind of lost you for a second there. So you were just cracking on how short you are.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so anyhow, so that became a problem because when I tried to leg lock him, he tried to leg lock me. The height differential was just too much. Like we really couldn't get good angles because of the height. And back then, leg locks were kind of my thing, but it was just too awkward.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on the passing, and my pass was a knee cut pass. Now, here's another thing that was interesting. Hanner was wearing a gi, which nobody else was. Oh, Hanner and Hiron both wore gis. Nobody else was wearing gis. But in the rules, you were allowed to use whatever clothes you were wearing to your advantage, either as the person wearing them or as the opponent. I'm not a dummy. I'm going to use his gi whenever possible. So when I was doing my knee cut passes, it was easy because I could just grab both of his sleeves, cut, and take his arms away from him. He couldn't push me out or nothing. So I started scoring some strong passes. He did get me in one good salvo where he actually almost Kimura'd me. I remember I was not ready for it because he was locking a figure four guard. And normally when someone does a figure four guard, they're just stalling usually, or they'll just try to do some cheesy chokes in your neck or whatever, But he was so tall that flat on his back, he was able to reach over my back and grab a Kimura with the figure four still locked in. And I've never had that happen before.
Right.
So it's like, oh crap. And my hand was just about touching the back of my head. And then I was like, okay, time to bail. So I rolled over and gave him mount. And this is something I teach. This is a Kimura error on his part. By keeping the guard, he doesn't control my hips sideways.
Right.
So I was able to roll over, escape the Kimura, and then come back. Because at that point, he was winning 7-1 when he got that. Because it was a sweep with a mount. And then I think he had a point for the guard. But then I started passing his guard a lot. And I got up to like 9 points. So it was like 9-7. And he would recover his guard every time because he was just so flexible. And towards the end, I passed again. And when I passed, I was sitting in side control. And I was looking at him, staying close. But then I noticed no points were being given. So then I look up the ref. And the ref's just looking at me like, oh. And then Henry realizes the match is not going to be called, so he scrambles out, and my brother starts yelling and furious, like, what the hell? And then the match went on for another few minutes, and he almost choked me out after that, because he had threw on some lapel choke or whatnot that I've never seen because I don't train with a gi, and I had to just spaz my way out of it. I was just like, going nuts, trying to shake him off of his collar choke, whatever it was he was doing. And then when I escaped that, I passed again. But when I passed for the final time, I counted out loud. I was like, 1, 2, because there's supposed to be a 3 count.
Yeah.
So I counted to 7, and at that point, it forced the referee's hand. You know, like I'm
You
controlling
counted to
it
7 before they gave you the point?
to my recollection, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of strong feelings for that referee. I won't say his name, but yeah, kind of a douchebag thing.
You
But
text it to me
so
later so I can be on the lookout for him.
so you know, after I won that match, and again, it was just all knee cut passes. There was nothing fancy, but the only thing that made it easy for me was I was controlling his sleeves. You know, so it was easy to pass. And he didn't seem like he was an open guard player too much. So he had a dangerous close guard. I felt very dangerous. I felt in danger whenever I was in his close guard. But when I opened his guard up, he didn't seem as versed at the time, you know. But I remember after that match, my heart rate was just like, boom, maybe for a good 30 minutes, just like going off kilter. I was kind of scared for a moment. I'm like, oh, I might die. This might be a heart attack, because I never had my heart race for that long, you know, for no reason. But eventually it settled down. And on the other side, Hiron fought with Jeff, and they ended up going for 58 minutes. And essentially, that match had some fuckery as well, because Jeff did the same thing. He pulled guard, and Hiron couldn't pass his guard. And then when they flipped over, Jeff couldn't pass his guard. So they went 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. So they went all the way to 12. But the thing that got messed up was that a couple times Hiron would be standing over Jeff, and then Jeff from a butterfly guard would sit up, take him down. To me, that's a sweep.
Yeah, that should be a sweep. That is a sweep.
They called it a takedown, 0 points. So that happened to Jeff twice. So when that happened, he fell behind in that game of 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. So he ended up losing 12-11.
What?
When he really should have probably won by a couple of points. So it was kind of
All right,
but
so
they paid
the story that I'm pretty sure, I guess it was your brother that was telling it. When he was telling it, he was talking about the knee cut pass and how in the beginning you had trouble passing. Like it took you a little bit to make the pass. I don't know if that's even true or not based on the way he told it. But he said you had trouble making the pass. It took you a little time initially, and then you got through and he recovered real fast, right?
Yes.
And you came back and you hit him with the same pass. And he was telling it in the story like, look, he only has one pass that he knows, and he just run that pass down his throat until eventually each time you passed, you stayed past longer, and you stayed past longer.
Yes. Okay. So that's an important part of passing, right?
That's the mind.
Yeah, that's the mindset. So what happens is everybody has a concept of what their abilities are, right? On both sides. So normally everybody who has a good guard thinks their guard is unpassable, right? So there's a belief in their mind that, you know, especially if you're a black belt Gracie, you must believe that my guard cannot be passed by anybody, especially this guy, right? And I'm fighting now. He's never going to pass my guard. And that belief gives him a lot of resistance, right? So when I work to pass his guard, I'm fighting that belief of his, that his guard's unpassable. So the stronger his belief, the harder and more resistance I'm going to face. Likewise, there's a similar struggle in my mind where I have to believe I can pass his guard. It's similar to a submission, because if I give up on my guard pass early, he never has to defend hard, right? So to me, I always believe I can pass anybody's guard. It's just a matter of time, because I wear people down. That's generally what I do when passing guard. I just throw so many attempts and passes that, especially back in the day, I was more of a brute force hacker. Right? I just, like my brother would say, I just throw a knee pass, a knee cuts, hip cut, knee cut, hip cut, just nonstop smashing until eventually you just get fatigued or overwhelmed and you just cave. So that was my MO early in, especially in that match. So with Hanner, I would pass, and then like he would freak out and come back. but then I would pass, freak out, and come in. But the moment I'm able to hold the pass for just a few seconds, his belief is now challenged. Empirical, right? Like you thought your guard was impassable, but this guy just passed your guard. Your guard is passable, right? So now he's going to resist less because it's not a counter to his belief anymore. He knows differently now. He knows his guard can be passed, right? So there's not as much resistance anymore. So I always tell people, if I can pass your guard once, I can pass it twice, 3 times, 4, 5, 6. Like, I'll keep passing it. I just need one. You give me one, I know you're done. And that's been proven true in pretty much every match I've ever had. If I can pass your guard once, I'm going to keep passing because I know now you're broken.
I think I was a blue belt when I heard that story. And that little mindset right there has been tremendous for my career. So I want to thank you for doing the legwork and the research and development and teaching me that from without us having ever met each other until I was already a black belt when I met you. And
yeah.
So I owe a lot of my success to that story that your brother told. And I don't even remember where I heard it from, man. But it was an audio interview, and I remember listening to it on my computer. It's just like the only thing on the computer screen was just the audio bar playing.
Voice,
It was like a 45-minute interview, and I listened
to
it.
It was with, I'm pretty sure that was on his course. He has a course, Guard Passing Made Easy, and there's an online interview. I think it was Lloyd Irvin interviewing him about guard passing.
Yeah, I didn't have the course. I didn't even know about the course. I found it, or maybe somebody sent it. I don't know, but anyway, thank you for that, man. I'm so glad you shared that story with us. It's a beautiful thing. So I got to get out. I got to go teach class, but let me give you a chance here. Talk to me about some of the stuff, or not just me, but like everybody that because we're gonna rip this audio and put it on the podcast too, and that's where most of the stuff will come from. So, like, what's going on with you? Tell me about some of the Kimura Trap stuff going on. I know you got a new podcast coming up with Drysdale. Like, lay it down for us. How can we get with you?
Gotcha. So first of all, if you've liked this, these type of conversations where we're talking about like mindset, training philosophies, strategy, and all that, me and Robert are getting together to do. Actually, we're going to film one tonight. They're not going to be live though, but we're going to be doing a podcast together where we're going to be discussing, what goes on behind the scenes of, top competitors and athletes and the type of mindset you need to become a champion or to be a top performer at the very least. I think most people are obsessed with learning techniques, which, don't get me wrong, they're cool, but it's not what makes a champion.
Agreed.
Right? Like, I could take John Jones, take his brain right out of his head and put it into somebody else. And if somebody absorbs John Jones' body, they're not going to become a world champion, right? They don't have the technique, they don't have the mental toughness, they don't have the grit that made John Jones who he is. Everything that is John Jones is essentially in here. But nobody's trying to emulate what's going on here. They're trying to copy the techniques, what they could see outwardly. So to me, like with my coach, with my athletes and whatnot, we're always working mindset, because that's what's going to make you better. The techniques just help you perform. But what makes you perform is in here. And you can see it with top fighters all the time. They lose a key match and they break down. They're never the same. Right?
Yeah.
It's not because they forgot moves. It's because they forgot their way of being. Right.
Awesome.
And it's a belief again, right? Like you have guys like Fedor, who you remember who was unstoppable. He was a juggernaut. And he had the aura that he would just crush everybody. He got beat once and the aura disappeared. Not everybody beats him. It's unfortunate, but it's just
true,
because the belief was lost, and it goes both ways. The belief in himself that he was unstoppable, and the belief of his opponents that he's unstoppable, because there's evidence like he can be stopped, So that type of stuff we're going to be covering. We're going to be doing interviews and stuff, and like I said, we're fortunate we're in Las Vegas, so we should have some really good interviews. We have some people lined up. Yeah, I won't give any spoilers, but it'll be a lot of UFC stars, Hall of Famers, champions, so it should be very interesting.
We lost the feed from David, so I'm gonna see if I can get him back on here real quick. Search for David. Hey guys, oh there it is. Let's see. Let me add this fool in here. How do I get him back in? Here we go. Add. There we go. Get David back in here and finish this bad boy up.
Hey, Brandon.
Sorry about that, man.
Hey. No worries. The last thing I heard was Instagram's going to cut us off in the next.
So I always forget that Instagram has like a 30-minute time limit on your live videos. So sorry about that, man. We'll edit it all up. It won't be too janky.
Gotcha. No worries. So yeah, as I was saying, the podcast is called Breaking the Guard. We have the website breakingtheguard.com. It's in development, but we're all going to have that cleaned up, and you'll be able to see if you follow me or you follow Robert. You'll know where it is. And then for my online courses and whatnot, everybody can check them out at it's ffacoach.com. foxalphacoach.com, and it's pretty much where I put all my videos. I upload new videos every day. We have all my courses there. Currently, there's a 20% off sale. So any courses you want to get, you can get the Kimura Trap normally 97, 107. It's only $77. So you can get it at ffacoach.com. And everything I do is up there. So people who follow me on social media, they're only seeing like one move a week, but the whole series is on FFA Coach. So like, if you only follow me online, you're getting like 4 out of 30 videos that I put up every month. So that's what I tell you. If you want to get as much from me as you can, check it out. You could also visit my blog, davidavellan.com or davidmma.com for short, and subscribe there. I have now, like, just for free, I give out over 150 videos. So if you're poor, you got no money, or you're just a cheapskate, but you want to learn some stuff, free stuff, right? So you just go to davidavellan.com or davidmma.com, and you can just sign up for my newsletter, get free stuff.
Awesome, man. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I'm just a little redneck over here in Alabama, man. So I'm not hardly worth talking to, but it's a big deal for me to be able to just spend some time just learning from a great mind and such a great and like powerful competitor like yourself, man. So I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, man.
You're very humble, Brandon. I've watched you for some time on Instagram, and like I told you in person when I did a seminar with you when you went to 10th Planet Las Vegas downtown. And I had learned a little trick from you that 20 plus years of training I didn't know, with the arm bar and the chest pressure.
Oh, nice.
So I think it was one of your jiu-jitsu hacks, right? The
Yep.
60-second hacks or whatnot. Yeah. So I saw that. I'm like, damn, that's something I've been missing out on. And now I teach it all the time, and everybody's, oh, that's amazing. I'm like, yeah. So that was because of you.
Send them my way.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
thanks,
no, you
man.
got to check out.
Dude, when you walked into that seminar that I was teaching, that was probably one of the most surreal moments of my life, honestly. Like, I'm such a little jiu-jitsu nerd, man. You have no idea. Like, this is all I care about, really. And so for you to walk in and then take my seminar was like, it was one of the most humbling moments of my life, man. So thank you for that. I'll never forget that. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And it was an honor to be able to work with you. And like I said, I learned stuff in that seminar as well with the leg lock game. So
Thanks, brother.
I must stop short. Like I didn't come up from a long lineage myself. I trained under somebody who nobody ever heard of before. And for the most part, I was self-taught because I only trained with that guy for like a year. So a lot of people think to be a big shot or to be good, you have to train with, world champions and all that. I mean, that's nice, but you don't need it.
I agree.
If you know your fundamentals, you work hard, you train smart, you can get far. I feel like I have, and I know certainly you have, and you're helping a lot of people, teaching what you're doing through your websites and all that. So anybody out there, you're like, man, I live in the middle of nowhere, I don't have anybody. Well, you don't need that, especially nowadays. You got access to me and you. You know what I mean?
That's right, baby.
Yeah. So like you can train online, and I had a student who came in from the street, and he was tapping people out left and right. like Darce Chokes, tall guy. And I'm like, where do you train at before? He's like, I never trained in the gym. It was all YouTube. Damn, he's a YouTube black belt.
Dude, you know what? I always tell people, like, you know, it's real fashionable. It's like cool, I guess, to like make fun of YouTube jiu-jitsu or whatever. But I think I'm like one of the first generation guys who got their black belts off of YouTube in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I got all my ranks from Eddie, right? But I've been out here by myself the whole time, so I would just have to go find Eddie and bring him out here and, you know, compete a lot, and he would watch my progress and rank me, right?
Yeah.
But really, if it hadn't been for guys like you, you know, just all the guys who put material out, especially, you know, several years back, there wasn't that many of them putting stuff out. You know, Carlos Machado, I learned a lot from Carlos Machado. But anyway, I'm thankful. That's the main point. I'm thankful for you, and I wish you like the most success that I could possibly wish you, man.
Thank you, Brandon. We have to see each other again in the future soon.
Yeah.